All right, so you've made the decision to purchase a house, but do you know what your closing costs are? What do they consist of? How much do you have to bring to the closing table other than your down payment? Well, all these answers and more are coming right up. Hey everyone, Andrew here with the Lake Team in Houston, Texas, and welcome back to another video that we have for you today. If you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't already, go ahead and smash that subscribe button down below. We do our best to produce the best real estate content to produce to you guys each and every week. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump straight into today's topic. What are your closing costs as a buyer? So other than the traditional methods of purchasing a house when it comes to your down payment, everyone always thinks about the down payment, but no one ever really considers the other costs that come into play whenever you're purchasing a house. Now your down payment, it ranges wildly from your type of loan. And if you're a first-time home buyer or if you're a seasoned home buyer, whatever the case is, but it all depends on the type of loan. For example, if you're conventional and you've never bought a house before, there are programs out there that you can get into a house with 3% down, 3% for the purchase price. And if you've bought a house before and you're going conventional, it's typically 5% down. Now, just because it's the loan type, everyone's situation is a little different. Your DTI might be a little higher and you're trying to push for a higher purchase price or a higher house. So it all depends on your DTI and whatever your lender has told you. But for conversation's sake, we're just going to go over the standard down payments and everything. So yeah, so it'd be 3% if you haven't bought a house, you're going conventional route, 5% down if you have purchased a house before. Now FHA is 3.5% down minimum, and VA loan, obviously if you're a veteran, then you have access to a veteran's loan, which is 0% down, which is actually super cool. I myself am a veteran and I've used a VA loan, and it really helps out a lot for whenever you're trying to get into that one house, and it helps with all you really do have to worry about is your actual closing costs other than your down payment. But yeah, no down payment for VA, which is pretty cool. Now there are other programs out there, non-qualified mortgages, for example, which means you can't go the traditional route, you can't go FHA, you can't go VA. So I mean there are some different. It's called a non-qualified mortgage. And what that means is if you can't qualify for a traditional route, you have to go to the non-qualifying stage. They can use bank statement loans. So they go off of 2 or 3 months of history of your bank statements. After that, typically lenders want to see about 20% down when it comes to that. Now every lender is different with their requirements. So I would suggest to you guys that if you can't go the qualified mortgage route and you have to go the non-qualified route, speak to your lender. Everyone has different programs. Everyone has different options. So just, find that perfect lender that suits you the best. All right, so we're going to move right along into the loan origination fees. Now, this is what home buyers can actually shop for. Some of the fees that lenders charge, and this is how lenders make their money, right? So a loan origination fee is just that they get paid to originate the loan. And typically what we see, it varies wildly from lender to lender. So, but for conversation's sake, it's, maybe around 1% or less is what the origination is. That's something that you're gonna have to come up with on top of your down payment. So make sure you're aware of that. Another thing that you're gonna get prorated for at closing are your property taxes. So typically lenders will maybe want 6 months to a year of property taxes paid upfront in full at the time of closing. And down here in Texas, property taxes are a big deal. It's pretty expensive. We don't have any state tax down here in Texas, but we make up for it in the property tax route. So whenever you're choosing a house, if property tax is a big deal, then you might want to talk to your realtor or talk to us to make sure that house that you're looking at is in an area that has a low tax rate. So for example, if you're in a newer construction neighborhood, typically your property taxes are going to be a little higher than more established older neighborhoods. That's usually because of mud tax, and we can go over all that stuff in a different video. But for conversation's sake, what we're kind of seeing on average is maybe about 3%. If you're in Harris County, you might get away with like 2.2, 2.5%. And in the newer construction neighborhoods, let's say out in the suburbs, for example, you're looking at a higher property tax rate around 3.8, 3.9%. And it makes a huge difference on your monthly payments as well. So keep that in mind. All right, another thing is insurance. So insurance is, you're also gonna have to pay a year up front. Obviously this is something that you guys can shop for, and you wanna get with your insurance agents, get a few quotes on the house. And it really all depends too on where the property is located. So if you're in a coastal county, let's say like Brazoria County, Matagorda County, all those coastal counties that are close to the Gulf Coast basically, you're gonna be required to have what's called windstorm insurance. And so the windstorm insurance will actually make your insurance premiums a little higher because it's a little more risk. As in the insurance agent's eyes, it's a little more risk because of hurricanes, obviously. So bear that in mind. Where the property is located, Harris County, for example, is not in a coastal county, so you're not going to be required to have windstorm insurance, unlike say like Brazoria County, for example, down in Pearland area. Yep. So bear that in mind whenever you're shopping for a house. Say like Galveston County might be a little bit more expensive than Harris County. You will be required to have your windstorm insurance. But other than that, obviously you could shop for the best rate that you could possibly get, but multiple different insurance agencies out there, and I would recommend shopping some. We have our preferred vendors that we work with that we actually carry our policies through. So if you need a recommendation, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to give you one. Another thing you need to watch out for is the lender's title policy. This is required. You can't get away from it. As a buyer, lender's going to require their title policy. It's completely different from the seller's title policy that the seller pays for. You want to get with your lender to see how much the title policy is. They have their own formulas and everything that they can give you, and they give you a rough estimate. A lender's title policy will actually cost you. So again, I wish I could have a straightforward answer on this particular one, but I don't, because it kind of varies from lender to lender. All right, so now we have some additional miscellaneous smaller items such as like recording fees, documentation prep fees, attorney's fees, escrow fees. All that stuff kind of adds up, but those are smaller items. You're talking maybe $100 here, $50 there, $20 there. An escrow fee, for example, when you're closing at a title company, can be around $450. Again, that's different title companies charge different escrow fees, but the one we work with, First American Title, they charge about $450. All right, another thing that might be overlooked are your inspections as a buyer. So once you go under contract, you're obviously going to get your inspections done by a licensed inspector, and that costs anywhere from $300 to $600, depending on who you hire to do the job. And it can get a little bit more expensive too. If you are in a rural area, you're buying some property that's sitting on some acreage, and you have your well and your septic, and maybe even a pool. So all those things do add up. Well and septic is pretty expensive to get an inspection done on. Pool is kind of the same thing. Just it all depends on who you hire. But let's say, for example, if you're in a rural county, you have a well and septic and a pool with your normal inspection report for the interior and exterior of the home, you're probably looking around $1,000 to $1,200 for your inspections. And that's not something that's going to come out of closing costs, right? That's something that you're going to have to come up front, because you're going to be hiring these people before you even decide it's a for sure thing that you're moving forward. So you're inspecting the property to make sure it meets your standards. So that's something, be prepared to have that money up front to pay for your inspections. A lot of people they don't really think this far ahead, but it's my job to kind of explain the things the best I can to you guys. So another thing that's up front is once you get past your inspection phase, so you're definitely, like, you've made a decision, you're 100% moving forward with this property. The next step is that your lender is going to order the appraisal, and that is your responsibility to pay for. Now, it just depends on the property size. It depends on the location. Appraisals can range anywhere from $400 to $600. So just be prepared to that. That's another expense that a lot of people don't look for. So at the end of the day, when you count your inspections and your appraisal, you could be anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500. It all depends on which route you go, which property it is. So there's a lot of variables that are in play. But yes, the appraisal is one thing that you do have to come out of pocket for. That's probably typically maybe 2 weeks before your actual closing date is set on the contract, or the lender will order it, and then you're going to have to pay for the appraisal. All right, another thing, this varies as well from contract to contract. Maybe the seller does not have a recent survey, or a survey at all for that matter. You're going to have a survey done. It is a requirement from your lender. We're going to go over this in another video, but a survey is basically showing your boundary limits of your property, where your easements are, any pipelines, anything like that, anything crazy going through it, but where your utility easements and where your boundaries are versus where your neighbor's property is. What amount of property you actually own versus your neighbors and all that. So it gives you a boundary limit of where everything is. Now a survey, I would say anywhere from maybe probably $600, $700. It kind of depends on who you hire again to do the job. But I would go ahead and plan for about $600 for a survey. And another cool thing is when you're working with a buyer's agent, representation to you is at most times 100% free of charge. We get paid through the selling agent's broker. That's how we get paid, and we don't get paid till you close. So you don't have to worry about paying a buyer's agent such as myself or anybody on my team for that matter, because our commissions are typically covered by the seller's agent's broker. So you don't have to worry about coming up with X amount of dollars to pay your realtor. But representation to you, for the most part, is 100% free. All right, so one thing I do want to talk to you guys about real quick is there is obviously, going over this video, there is a lot where there are a lot of closing costs come into play here that a lot of people think about. They only think about their down payment. They don't really consider all the other factors that come into play here. So one thing I do want to talk to you about is how to get some of that stuff covered by the seller. It all depends on what kind of market you're in, on how competitive that house that you're going after is. You know, are there multiple offers on the table, or are there not multiple offers on the table? How long have the sellers been on the market? These are some things to consider, and your agent will be able to let you know all of this, and you'll be able to kind of get a feel for it as well. But what we typically do, if it's not a high competitive area or high competitive house, we try to get closing costs covered by the seller. Let's say, for example, the house is $300,000, right? And we're estimating your closing cost to be around, I don't know, $6,000, okay? Everyone's situation is different. I mean, are you gonna lowball them and ask for some closing costs? Or are you gonna give them a full price offer and ask for some closing costs? Are you gonna go above their listing price to get some closing costs? I mean, it really all depends on the market, how long they've been on the market. There's a lot of factors, too many variables to say, but conversation's sake, let's say $300,000 is their list price. You offer them $295,000 with $5,000 in closing costs or $6,000 in closing costs, and that helps mitigate some of your out-of-pocket expenses whenever you go to closing. And so really all you have to worry about is your down payment. Now, you're not gonna be able to do this for every single property that you see, because again, it just depends on where it's located. It depends on the competitiveness of it. Are there other offers on the table? So these are all things that need to be considered before you come up, when you talk with your agent, before you come up with an offer, and obviously seller's contributions toward your closing cost. All right, well, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If I missed anything, please put it in there and I'll be happy to explain in the comments or make another video on the subject anything that I missed. So if you have any further questions, you can reach out to us directly. I'll leave a link below to my website. If you're watching this on my website, you can find the contact us page. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe down below. And we do, like I said in the beginning, we do our best to produce the best real estate content for you each and every week. Try to answer all your questions, to educate buyers and sellers as best as we possibly can. If you have a topic that you'd like me to make a video on, leave a comment in there as well, or shoot me a text, email, it don't matter. We love making videos, and so if you have a subject you want us to touch on, feel free to reach out, leave a comment. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button again. You'll be the first to notified when we release new videos. And that's just about wraps it up. I'm Andrew with the Lake Team here in Houston, Texas, and we'll see you next time.